Hello everyone, I am Tasta, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Lord of the Flies event in which a Lord Desollatus is added to the game. So today we're going to be doing something we actually did several months ago. We did it on April 1st as a joke in that we did the entire video in inverse order without mentioning anything. However, we're kind of going to do it again this time and just kind of see how it goes, see if you guys prefer it this way or not. Exact order, I'm not quite sure, but you know, we'll go over like the teams first and then go into Soulforge and you know, kind of do a little bit of reverse order and eventually just end it out with, I guess technically a new troop at that point. But anyways, let's go and get into it. Of course, we do have teams in these videos now once again. Hopefully all the time. We have for the last several times. We didn't for a little bit there, but yeah, we're back to it again. As far as all the teams, will be in the description below if you want to go and copy paste any of them. So yeah, let's start from the top. So world event. The world event this week is associated to that of humans. With that being said, we're allowed to use any humans from anywhere, so you're most likely going to want to use Tesla. Tesla and any of the heavy mana accumulating ones going to be really good. One other thing to consider if you have it laying around is Holy Saint Astra. She gives 50% mana start to all humans on your team, which includes hero class, of course, if you're using a human-based hero class such as Plag Lord from the current event week thing. And as far as weapon, you're allowed to use anything, so in this case we're just using Wand of Stars to get some mana accumulation. However, you can use her Skia Shield for some extra armor or however else you want to end up running it, but you're probably going to want to go down the mana route just to kind of get things rolling. You could even completely avoid using hero and go like any other human that can mass mana accumulate like Thrall and the such. I believe Angry Mob we have access to, stuff like that, so you could just do that in order to get all of your mana as well, or it depends what route you want to do, though Angry Mob does initially block it. With that being said, we do use Angry Mob for the lower rarity team. It is a ultra rare. And we're doing this with Atlanta. You get one copy for free just from completing out the quest line in Divining Fields if you haven't already, and hopefully you just have a second one laying around. Otherwise, just use whatever your best damage source is. And with this, we're basically just using a black mana called Atlanta team, using Angry Mob as our primary mana accumulator. Even with lower magic, even though he will do less destroys earlier on in the game, one big gimmick that he has is he can resummon himself. So even if your hero dies, you will just get infinite Angry Mobs, basically turning your team into double Angry Mob, double Atlanta. If you don't have to double Atlanta, just put whatever your next best damage source is as your second Atlanta, but you get one automatically for free from the Divining Fields questline. And I didn't mention it, but of course the black manacle you end up getting from just hero mastery, just put into brown and purple and you'll eventually get it. And Angry Mob is just a random drop from the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chest drop table. And if you don't happen to have this, you could go down the Thrall route. However, the big issue with Thrall, aside from the whole team being purple at that point, is it doesn't have any kind of resummon or anything. And with the lower amount of destroy, it might not be enough, whereas we're mostly utilizing the Angry Mob destroy there as well. As far as our next teams, we have ourselves the faction event teams. We have two set of faction event teams, one for the one that we have on Tuesday, but we also have a weekend faction event this week, which will be bringing in a new troop that is okay, has like a gold boost ratio thing. I don't think it's going to change the meta of how you do pure faction, but there's a different angle that you could go about. It gets its damage quicker, but it's slower by the end of the fight, I think, if you're doing like a pure faction 500. But anyways, we'll get there when we get there. So for the faction event, this is for All Seeing Eye, one of the worst factions in the game because it has one less room than every other faction. Originally, factions were going to have a variable number of rooms that would be like two different off, where they'd either be one below the normal amount or one above the normal amount. However, All Seeing Eye is one below. Every other faction is the normal amount, and none of them have one extra, so they never end up doing it. All Seeing Eye is the only outlier. It is a green-blue restriction, though, of course, with all faction events, you are allowed to run anything as your weapon. So for the first team here, we just have a pretty standard low rarity, just quick kill Rowan team as far as the team is concerned. And for the higher rarity, I figured since we did have the ruby weapon available as last week, we could still go down that route. We had Talk Shotgun, Soulforge as well, and you can just do that and get the mana going really quickly with your mass explode off of a Leprechaun, or even triple Talk Shock if you want to do that. Anything similar. As far as our pure faction team, it is one of the only few pure factions where you run one of each, not just one of each, but the exact same mirror as the final fight. I'm pretty sure this is the only faction actually in the game where you run it like identical 1-to-1. But yeah, it just has good synergy. You have this guy to go and explode and get rid of all their attack value. This guy to deny the enemy's brown to green. You have this not even necessarily for yourself, but to make sure the enemy doesn't get value from it. This has resummon, so in case these die, you just get them right back. And Exorator just for a ton of extra damage. Oddly enough, he's probably the most replaceable one here, but he does have some nice skull spam. Biggest issue is waiting till he has yellow to skull alignment. But once he does, you'll have a bunch of attack into your leech, which will just be able to go and kill out everything. Next, we have the Plag Lord Hero Class event. This is taking place on Thursday and is restricted to specifically humans from Darkstone. With that being said, we could just use Mass Thrall in order to use his Purple Link, use his Mass Mana Accumulation off his ability, and feed in the Black Manacle, which is also from the Kingdom itself. of Darkstone, which is pretty relevant when we get to the Underspire teams. So of course for Underspire, not only do we have to use Underspire troops, but specifically also Underspire weapons. With that being said, Essence of Evil is an amazing option. You get this from 250 wins on the Plag Lord hero class if you haven't already. We also have the class event, as we just mentioned, for on this Thursday, which you can also get it with gems, though it is pretty pricey to get it with gems. I advise just getting to 250 wins instead, but it is directly purchasable with gems on Thursday. Not advised, but is a thing. Essence of Evil, really good hero weapon. It's among one of the best few that you end up getting from leveling up a hero to max. It inflicts every single negative status effect onto an enemy, and this also retroactively does any future ones. So if we get another new status effect in like a month from now, it'll also do that one. And then explodes basically all gems of one of their mana colors, as the amount of magic you'll have will definitely exceed the amount of gem explode. Even in early game, you should be able to explode the full amount. Even just with like 15 magic, you're already doing a pretty solid amount of explode. 16 explodes, it looks like there, since it's 1 plus whatever your magic is. So even early game, you should be getting the max amount of explodes from this. So really accessible. Every single negative status effect is really good because that's free, stun, you know, curse, absolutely everything, even death mark. Unfortunately, some of the annoying ones too, like lycanthropy, which can override all of it and basically make it so it doesn't have any negative status effects. But overall, really great weapon. You tend to cast this onto whatever the biggest threat is on the opposing team. Thrall, of course, just pretty standard mana accumulator. If you happen to have it, the Nebula Dragon tends to be pretty good. The green Celestial Dragon ends up just doing a lot of damage. Is by far your best damage source. You can also double up on this, but if you want to have some more color diversity, you can go with Possessed King. He has a multi-transform and can also do some AoE damage. Quite a bit less than the Nebula Dragon, but still some pokes. The other reason you use him is because he does 2 explodes per extra turn you do, which can help cycle the board and get you a little bit more mana accumulation into everything on your team. As far as the lower rarity team that we have here, we're going with basically just Black Manacle into Thrall. Thrall in order to get over mana. This will do quite a bit less destroys early on in the game, but it will still be decent enough to get you rolling. The Clarion Leech will still do its 4 explodes regardless of your magic level, only its attack steal is scaled, so you will always get the same amount of mana accumulation from that. It also is fast to get things rolling a little bit quicker, but you're basically spamming your Black Manacle until you win. One nice thing about this too is Black Manacle has a 20% chance to devour a random enemy, and if this does occur, you'll be able to synergize that really well with the Skull Spam that you end up getting from Rexerator. Even though this is a legend, this is a faction legend, so I do consider it low rarity. All you have to do is just throw some of your Chaos Shards at All-Seeing Eye Portal in the Underworld, and you'll be able to go and get him very easily. Should be able to get him in a few dozen pools or so and get him from his drop table. And the one I'm referring to, of course, is if you go over here, go over to All-Seeing Eye, go over to these little portals, there is a, what is this chance? There is a 2.97. So what is that, like 33? So yeah, a few dozen, exactly what I said. So in about a few dozen, you should hopefully get him if you go on drop right for the portal there. Beyond that, rest of them, where were we at? We were at Pure Faction for All-Seeing Eye. No, we weren't. We were at Underspire Low, which also happens to use the Pure Faction team, or, you know, 2 of the troops from it. Anyways, next and finally, we have ourselves the faction troops. So as far as the faction troops, of course, we just went over faction earlier for the Tuesday faction event, which is a blue-green restriction for All-Seeing Eye. However, we also have a weekend one this weekend. We will be getting a brand new troop. Actually, I think I have it up right now. I might as well show it real quick. So we're going to be getting the Cobalt Thief this weekend. He is a epic troop from Emperor Inazar, Goblin Naga as far as his typing. 12 mana cost. He deals some magic damage to the last enemy, boosted by his gold, which will do up to 50 damage if you don't have anything else in your team that can boost it, which I don't think there is anything within the faction that can do that. So this would be 50 additional damage on top of what he's already doing. And then either gain an extra turn or gain a bunch of gold. Beyond that, he does have stealthy, so he can't be targeted directly. Overall, it's not bad. He definitely has better initial damage than the other guy, but the other guy has a double poke. And because the main thing that you're doing during the Pure Faction is scaling up your magic with ideally 2 Emperor Inazars, you'll be gaining 4 magic then for every single extra turn. And this guy only gains 4 damage per extra magic, or, you know, 1-to-1 as far as his magic to damage ratio. Whereas the other thing, since it hits 2 enemies, is gaining double the amount of benefit. So even though this guy's initial damage will probably be a bit higher than the old method, it's probably still better to do the old method just because you're double scaling off of it compared to him, which does not end up doing so. So that's worth considering. And this is relevant for the Pure Faction team. And what I mean by that is she gives a bunch of life and magic every extra turn. And the main premise here is you basically keep scaling that up and up and up. And one nice thing about this guy is he might not have stealthy, but he has score reduction. So of course he'll be taking a bunch of pokes. But the bigger thing is he deals damage to the first 2 enemies for the full amount of his magic. So he's gaining 2 damage per magic he gets. Whereas the other guy, despite having that nice boost ratio for gold for 50 additional damage, is only getting 1 additional damage per magic. Whereas this gets 2. So this scales better. And when you're doing 500 Pure Faction, you're going to want the extra scaling that this has over the new option. You could do a mix of both if you really want to, do like a Cobalt Knight and do one of the new guy if you really want to, or even go like a mix of one of each, though you do generally want double of this, not only for its resummon, but also for its double scaling, as you'll be gaining stats twice as quick if you have 2 compared to 1. As far as the actual teams, this is a brown-yellow restriction, though again, you're allowed to use any colored hero weapon. For this, we're just doing a pretty standard Guards Avatar, Surquet, and Hadley. However, if you need a cheaper option, we do have things like Zachi, which you can get just by throwing Chaos Shards at Stone Song Aerie. If you don't already have it, double Zachi can end up working out really nicely for that, just with Harpy Mage, which is basically a turn to empower. It'll start with 10 mana from 75%. The initial enchant on turn 1 will give it to 12, and then you just have to wait for your second turn to roll around, and you will have Empower on turn 2 instead of turn 1, like a normal Empower does. So you just do that to get all your mana for your team, and you're good to go. As far as the higher range, we end up going again with Takshaka. Gosh, I just realized I should have Takshaka like every single one of these higher ones. I mostly did it because, of course, he wasn't Soulforged last week, so hopefully end up picking up your 1, 2, or 3 Takshakas. And what this we're just doing with a High King Iron Gut Wand team. Just going all in on High King Iron Gut, Takshaka to clear out anything you can't, and of course you do also have Curse off of Wand if you have anything that's immune to Devour on the opposing team that you want to end up killing out with Iron Gut. And of course we kind of already went over this. The basic premise is scale up off your extra turns in order to gain a bunch of extra magic, and then use this thing that scales really well off of magic in order to kill the entire enemy team, also having score reduction. This also gives you a bunch of life, not just off of the cast itself, but also per extra turn, and you want to make sure that these kobolds do not die so that they can end up scaling. And if they do die, it does end up summoning a random kobold every single time you cast a spell as well, so you can end up scaling up that way as well. So even if it dies at any point prior to the final fight, you can end up getting a replacement one. And honestly, most of the summons there, either the 2 new damage sources, the new one that's coming out this Friday, or this one is perfectly fine to scale, and you can run that as your main damage source and scale it up from there, and just make sure on the final fight that they don't die, whereas prior you could just resummon it off of her ability. But those are all the teams. You can find them in the description below, and I'll probably also have it in a pinned message if you want to go and copy paste any of them. Anyways, next we'll move on to Soulforge, and do we have a good dragon? The answer is no. It's unfortunately a gem dragon, yellow gem dragon. If you need it, it is available, though of course it is substantially better to be going for the celestial dragons these days compared to the gem dragons. But if you already finished out your Stellarix and you happen to need this for your Diamantina, then yeah, definitely make sure to get it if it's the last one you need. One other really big thing to really mention here, as far as like legends or mythics, we have Tango Bomb. This is probably the only guaranteed time we'll really have to be able to get him during this current event season. The main reason he's somewhat relevant right now is because this event season, of course, has Entangle Gems. And there are some mechanics off of the new Mythic that we're going to be getting at the end of the campaign, as well as just Entangle Gems during the season, where you can get a little bit of extra value compared to how you normally would. The most noteworthy thing about him is he has Impervious into score reduction into triple damage versus entangled enemies. Really good with Elementals and other similar things like all the Entangle Gem mechanics that we're getting during the season. And yeah, it's just a really tanky, really immune, triple damage Entangle. Generally not as used as commonly as Web Spinner, that just consistently does triple damage to almost everything in the entire game. However, he has a lot of durability compared to Web Spinner, which is one thing that makes him kind of nice. The enemy team will also be entangled generally when you're running him, as you're going to be running an entangle spam team. So you're going to likely have Curse, you're going to likely have Entangle on the team, so on and so forth. So he'll be able to synergize really well in that, get a lot of damage, and you pretty much will be never dying to skulls between his score reduction, his Impervious, and his the fact that you're going to be entangle spamming. Also, of course, his ability doesn't do as much though. Deal some damage to an enemy, then entangle them and pull them to the front. But it's kind of like Rope Dart, but it wastes your turn in a sense. Somewhat similar to that, except without the armor tier. But you mostly use them for his traits, which are a really solid triple setup compared to quite a lot of other legends. Basically like a mythic in that regard, which is why I'm mentioning him here. And he's really thematic to the current season. And the only time you'll likely be able to get him guaranteed during this season, though of course you can get him in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests whenever, including right now if you really want to, though of course he's not exclusive, so a lot of things in that drop table you have to go through. As far as weapon, unlike last week where we had the really good Deathbringer into Ruby option through the Blade of Lands event last week, unfortunately this week around, not really anything. If you want it for completionist sake in order to get Darkstone to 30 star, 20 star, 10 star, 5 star, whatever milestone you're trying to do, then yes, get whatever weapons you need, or if you want to incorporate them into any team, because of course keep in mind for Underspire, you do have to use Underspire weapons, though between Black Manacle and Essence of Evil, you're probably going to be fine without any of them, but if you need them for any kind of completionist stuff, definitely make sure to get them if you need them for your current star milestone that you're trying to get. Beyond that, okay, so we went over that. Tuesday, we have ourselves the faction event for All Seeing Eye. This is a green-blue restriction, as we mentioned. Wednesday, we're getting the Troglodyte, which is just a Darkstone pet. Thursday, we're going to be getting the Plag Lord hero class, which is a human hero class from, of course, Darkstone, which has a combination of Barrier on Brown and Disease. It's basically a combination of very tanky while having a lot of spell resistance. It's a kind of nice mix as far as hero classes are concerned. However, it's not really used much these days, as in most situations, it's just substantially weaker elementalists. But it does have the benefit of counting as human, so there are some human synergies you can sometimes do, like with that one Tesla team that we end up showing it with. So there are some use cases for it. It's very rarely used in the current state of the game, though. But it does have spell reduction, does have disease to kind of mitigate spells, and also has Barrier on Brown. So has a few things going for it. And as we mentioned, this Friday, we're going to be getting a new troop, this one right here that we just already went over. And we're also going to be having the Emperor Nazar faction event for those 3 days, which is a brown-yellow restriction and a new layout for it as well, where you can do the deep delve variants. And hey, Halloween event around the corner. Not quite yet, though. PvP season's ending soon, too. This is the second to last week of the PvP season. So anything you still want to go finish up with this milestone-wise, definitely make sure to do so as far as all the season goals and everything else. Anything that you want to wrap up, as this is the second to last week to end up doing so. Beyond that, other things. Went over this. Oh, yeah, no, we didn't. So as far as the world event, scoring. It is spell damage this week, so you can just cast and spam and kill them out that way. So AoE team's going to be really nice. Anything that can hit all enemies simultaneously. As far as what room you should be taking, just don't take the Sister of Shadows as far as the full score breakdown. Sister of Shadows will end up giving you the least amount. You do get more for taking the same over and over and over again. But with this layout, we are eventually going to reach a point where you're just not taking Sisters of Shadows and just keep not taking this one, and you should be good to go. You're eventually just going to have all the ultra rare rooms there, and then just keep spamming, clicking the same one over and over and over again once you have made them all into Sister of Shadow battles. So pretty straightforward in that regard as far as completing it out. As far as the event queue drop table, it is of course associated to that of Darkstone this week. As far as Darkstone is concerned, I would say, oh wait, did not save? No! I set it up earlier, but I forgot to click the save filter button. Fail. Oh, let me go do it again. All right, there we go. So as far as the drop table is concerned, it's pretty skippable. Nothing really noteworthy here unless you're trying to get to a star milestone. But here is the entire list of things that are not in drop table. Troglodyte is in the discontinued Guild War that will supposedly be coming back before the end of this year. I'll believe it when I see it, but yeah, and it will also probably be the return of these troops. But as it currently stands, this is a discontinued troop until Guild War comes back into the game. Beyond that, obviously all 5 of the faction troops from All CNI, or 4? 5? 4? How many does it have these days? Whatever it is. Every All CNI troop is, oh yeah, it's 5 now. Did they get another one? But all 5 of the faction troops are not in drop table. Other things that are not in drop table include obviously the Celestial Dragon, which is only in the Celestial Egg drop table, as well as if it ever rolls around on a Monday event, though we'd end up getting Yellow Gem Dragon this time, so he's not available. And everything else that you see here is in drop table then. So yeah, you're not really opening for anything. The mythics here, really underwhelming. This used to be really good for a pure rogue team, but they end up changing how Rogue Spider works, which end up nerfing her to the ground. She is still the best bleeder in the entire game, but there isn't much of a use case for that in the current state of the game. It is 10 true damage to the entire enemy team once you have a 4 stack of bleed onto them all, but there just isn't really much of a way to really utilize her these days. Since the Rogue Spider team got nerfed, and yeah, just doesn't really have a use case now. We do have this insta-kill option over here, but generally speaking, just run Zolgoth. Just get Zolgoth instead, it's better. I guess you could technically do it for Underspire this week, so if you want an insta-kill option for really high Underspire, you can. But if you already have the Celestial Dragon, it's way better to run the Celestial Dragon than it is with him. Unless you're running like the final floor, maybe you'll bring him out for his insta-kill mechanic, but beyond that, you're likely just running 1 or 2 of the Nebula Dragon the entire time. And this place does have Possessed King. I'm generally not a big fan of using this guy, but he does have 2 explodes every single time you take an extra turn, which is a lot of mana accumulation. Really good, particularly in Doomskull-related Skull Spam teams, or Uber Doomskull if you're running that route, as whenever he does his 2 explodes, he'll likely chain react all the Doomskulls and Uber Doomskulls on the entire board, so he does have that going for him. He also has the highest amount of Transform in the entire game, while very inconsistent at 3 separate 20%. It is possible for this to multi-trigger, so you can actually get 3 of them. They can also hit the same enemy, oddly enough, so you can like double transform one and a single transform another. It's very rare that these end up hitting, but they do eventually hit if you cast them enough times. And yeah, that's pretty much everything here. Long story short, skip unless you're trying to get a certain star level to your Darkstone if you are close to your next milestone, whatever that might be, particularly getting to 5, 10, 20, or 30 if you are close to any of those within like a star or 2. Might be worthwhile to consider closing the gap. Beyond that, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything since we're doing this in such a weirder order, but I believe that is everything except the event troop. So we got this new guy. Is he any good? No. So as far as what he does, he converts all yellows to brown, which if he did Empower with all this, he might be okay. Honestly, now that I look at him, even if he had Empower, I still think this might actually be useless. Other than, you know, just as a standard Empower occasionally. But yeah, why did they not give him Empower? I just noticed that. This guy is like just as useless even if he had Empower. And he doesn't have Empower, so he's just dead content, like ultra dead content. At least with Empower, he could like occasionally be used once a year. But anyways, he converts all yellow gems to brown with no Empower, and then gains a bunch of gold, 50 gold. But of course, why do that when you just do Leprechaun for 20 gold and get a billion mana accumulation and do it instantly without needing to, you know, fill up mana? And then he diseases a random enemy for every 10 gold you have. I assume this goes the other way around, so you need to already have the gold in order for this to work. But I don't know, this is kind of weird. 4 times disease is not that good. And Darkstone already has a lot of ways you could disease, most notably the hero class. So not really much of a need to do it off of a random troop that doesn't even have any extra boost ratio based on disease or any follow-up beyond that, or Empower to make him even remotely usable. So yeah, he's just kind of completely dead content, just another thing to kind of get your star level up for your Darkstone. But anyways, guys, I believe that is everything. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Let me know if you prefer in this layout or prefer the other layout. Maybe we'll have a poll for it somewhere. I'm not sure. I don't think he actually put a poll on a YouTube video anymore like he used to be able to. So maybe we'll poll it on the stream tonight or something. Though that will have stream bias, since of course that won't include everyone, just people on stream tonight. Of course, we do still stream these days, Mondays, Fridays, and Sundays here in the channel, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on those nights. And tonight we'll kind of just be messing around with World Event and, you know, all the normal stuff we do every single week. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.